Okay, Heather, thank you so much for being part of our interview committee.
Absolutely.
As you know, we're looking for a fourth grade ELA position. Um, and we're really looking for somebody who has collaboration is a strength of theirs. We're looking for someone who has some experience in ELA because the team's still pretty new. And we'd really like somebody with some strong behavior management techniques as well. Is there anything else you can think to add that we
Well,
should
I'm
look
just
for?
thinking about our demographics and our student needs, and because we're a Title I campus, it would be nice if we had someone that had that background and
Yeah.
could relate to what our Title I students tend to need.
Yes, I totally agree. And also being a dual language campus, it'd be great to have somebody with some ESL strategies and things like that. So let's be listening for that.
And I think bilingual would definitely be a plus if that's something. I know it's hard to get, but that's definitely on my wish list.
Yeah, definitely. We're looking for monolingual, but just having that bilingual just helps so
With our
much.
community.
Yeah, exactly.
Agree.
Okay, so we have our candidate's resume right here in front of us. Is there anything that stands out to you about her experience or anything like that?
Well, I think just as far as like her commitment to education, I think when
Yeah.
I look at her resume, that's what she's done. So she's committed to that as a career, and the fact that she's been at multiple campuses for a long time, long periods of time.
Yeah.
So it's not like she's hopscotch from one campus to the next. She's committed to the assignments that she's taken. I love that she's got some pretty significant background with English language learners.
Yes.
That ESL piece is huge. She was a team leader. So I think that would really kind of lend itself well to the fact that we have a newer team where she could step up into a leadership role.
Correct.
What about you? What do you notice?
I noticed that commitment as well. I also noticed that she has some experience here within our district, which I think will be really helpful just knowing the Plano way and the Plano lingo that we use. That'll help as well. And then, like you said, the ESL component is huge. This candidate is not bilingual, but I do love that she has those ESL strategies because that's going to help all of our learners.
Yeah, and I noticed that she was a member of several professional organizations related to second language learners as well.
Yeah.
So she's probably got a passion for ESL kiddos, which is great for our campus.
Yeah.
And then I also noticed that she's done some curriculum writing over the summer in ELA.
Yes.
So that sounds like it might be a good fit for us.
Yeah, that'd be a great bonus. So just a reminder, we can't ask any kind of personally identifying questions. So we can't ask about her family or anything like that. We want to keep the questions related to her work experience. We want to keep the questions related directly to the job that we want. We want to keep it fair for all the other candidates applying as well. So we want to mostly stick to these questions. But if she says something, we can always ask a follow-up question to what she has said.
Okay, and so we're going to ask all of these questions,
Yes,
correct?
we're going to ask all these questions. So there's about 10 questions.
Okay.
Do you want to take the evens or the odds?
I will start with the evens. How about that?
Perfect. And I will take the odds.
Okay, perfect.
Awesome. And so our candidate's name is Crystal Rutinera. And I will go get her, and then we will get this interview started. You can have a seat right there at the head of the table.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, I'm Crystal.
Hi, I'm Heather Gregg. I'm one of the instructional coaches here at Weatherford.
Okay.
And
Good to meet you,
I'm
Heather.
Rachel Ashby. It's nice to meet you.
Good to meet you, Rachel.
Perfect. So Crystal, as you know, this is a fourth grade ELA position. And we are hoping to get someone in as soon as possible. So we just loved your resume and all of your experience on there. So we have some questions we're going to ask you. We're just going to kind of ping pong back and forth, and we'll give you a chance at the end to ask any questions you might have as well.
Okay,
All
thank
right.
you.
Okay, so Crystal, can you tell us about your experience and what has prepared you for a job here at Weatherford?
Okay, so I've been in education for about 27 years. I've always taught reading. I've been a third grade teacher, a second grade teacher, and I spent 10 years as a fourth grade teacher. I have a master's in reading.
Oh.
Yeah. And my undergrad in elementary education. And I've also helped to write curriculum for our district reading program.
Yes, I noticed that on your resume during the summer. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, Crystal, can you tell us, how do you structure a typical reading language arts block?
So my block is, I would do whole group, and I can tell you in a second what that would look like. I have targeted small groups. And I usually try to then come back to a whole group, even if it's just for 5 minutes to wrap up what, that learning target had been for the day. Whole group kind of looks like, that gradual release. I start with, reviewing the learning objective with the students. And from there, as I'm teaching that, the part of the lesson where I'm modeling, I'm going constantly back to that learning target. Talk about, okay, this is what I'm doing, how that fits into that learning target. After a very short model, then I like for students to be a part of that discourse. And so I'm walking around, I'm listening into conversations. I have different ways for kids to interact, whether it's in groups of 4s or groups of 2s, or doing things like 4 corners or lead forward strategies to get kids to interact. And then there's that practice time for them to be able to practice. I'm able to give kids feedback on how they're doing. And as they get into learning stations, which also have their own learning target or their own learning objectives, then I'm pulling targeted groups. Those targeted groups are based on our district map scores. They're based on unit assessments. I mean, shuffle groups based on specific skills. And I'm looking at those high priority standards to really figure out what TEKs to address to give us the biggest bang for our buck as far as what we should do in small group.
How are you identifying those high priority standards?
Part of it, the district does give us some. The other part is I'm analyzing the STAR test and kind of seeing what TEKs are addressed the most. I'm looking at our school history of 4th graders, how do our 4th graders normally do on specific TEKs. I guess that's kind of it. And then obviously specifically just to my class. I'm able to look at it from the district level, from our school level, and then just for my particular class.
Perfect.
And then I work with my other teammates for us to kind of come up with a list of like, okay, these are the ones that we need to hit the hardest.
Awesome, thank you. Can you tell us how you differentiate instruction to meet the needs of diverse learners in your classroom?
Differentiation comes in kind of different facets. So I would say, small group is one way to differentiate. Even how the work is presented to students. I have some students that if you were to give them work that looks too long or too hard for them, then that sets them off.
Right.
So it might be like, you have these 2 problems, or you're only writing 3 sentences about the story, but this student over here is writing 2 paragraphs. And so it could be how the work looks. It could be a project, how the product looks. You're doing this graphic organizer, and then from there, you're writing something about the text and underlying text evidence. You are right now just underlying text evidence because that's just where you're at. And so that right now is probably the biggest that I'm doing to be able to differentiate. I also look at the language, both from an ESL perspective and just for students that I have in my class that are served in special ed, speech, etc., where this student may have a word bank because that's what they need. This student may need to write something and they need a graphic organizer, or I may start filling out the graphic organizer and they have to finish the end of it. So that's kind of the work is the same and the rigor is the same, but I'm able to kind of differentiate that way.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, we know how important assessment is. How do you assess student progress and give students feedback on their work?
So assessment, just like I was talking about with the high priority standards, it's district level assessments, right? You have state, you have your district. And then, excuse me, I'm so sorry.
No problem.
So from the district level, of course, there's the unit tests. So that's kind of the district level. As a grade level, we do, CFAs.
Mhm.
I do formative assessment every day with my kids, and that could be short and simple, write something on a sticky note. It could be talk to your partner, or it could be write something or read something and answer questions about it. I think the most helpful and the most impactful is the CFA,
Mhm.
because yes, I'm giving those informal assessments all throughout,
Mhm.
but that becomes my opinion on what I think a fourth grader should be able to do and say. But now when I have my teammates involved and we all come up with the same standard,
Mhm.
then I know the kids are meeting the rigor that they should be
Right.
in fourth grade. Did I answer the question? Because I was distracted by that. Did I answer the question?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you talked a lot about your assessment? Can you tell us a little bit about the feedback that you give students?
Oh, feedback, that was the other part,
Yeah.
right? So the assessments sometimes are paper, pencil, they're oral, or they're on like a Google Classroom. And
Mhm.
so I like Google Classroom because I can immediately give comments. I have some self-correcting things, so they can automatically know like where they're at, what they need to work on. Usually by the middle of the year, I don't know, a couple of months before STAR, I give kind of an assessment on a lot of those high priority standards. And from there, each student gets their own sheet with the TEKs that they need to work on.
Mhm.
And then we discuss like, what are some of the ways that you're gonna do that? I'm gonna help you out because in class next week, we're doing ... But what are some things that you're gonna do? And so we have some technology things they could do, and I can go ahead and differentiate that way for them.
Mhm.
And pinpoint for them to know, well, when you're on my path and you're doing this, it's because of this TEK that you missed. And then I have within station work, that they have choice in their station work. So it could be, here's a central idea. Here is compare and contrast, whatever it is, and then they're making that choice based on that sheet that we went over of like, okay, what goals do they
Right. Perfect. Thank you so much.
have?
Can you tell us about how you handle disruptive behavior while also ensuring that the learning environment remains respectful and productive?
So first of all, I think behavior management starts with those close relationships with your students. So starting with morning circle, starting with having those positive phone calls home. Doing an interest surveys with my kids. What are you interested in? Oh, you really like Pokemon. Cool. I'm gonna try to incorporate that. And so that helps with you getting to know them getting to know me as well. I remember a couple years ago, I had my husband come in and he helped me in the classroom that day. And so now they're like, oh, cool, Mr. Justice. And so sometimes when things arise, I might say, gosh, Mr. Justice is supposed to come in a couple of weeks, but we really got to get some things done here, guys. I'm noticing with stations, it's not running well, just things like that. Because he became the hero kind of the class. So that's part of it, and that's more of whole group things. Now, another thing for whole group would be just really tight procedures and practice. Practice and truly until it's perfect. And when things, are going great, and then all of a sudden we have a break and we need to revise some things, then I take the time to do that. And the kids know we are going to stop until we get this right, because I know that you can do it, and I set those high expectations. Individually, I like to have private conversations with kids. I do not like to yell across the room, Bobby, stop that. I'd rather quickly finish up what I'm gonna do. Hey guys, trying to talk to your partner really quick. Hey Bobby, I need to talk to you. And just trying to do it seamlessly to still for the child to have that dignity.
Yeah.
But for them to know, like, I'm holding you to these high expectations. I believe in you. We are a family. We will figure this out. And not for everything to be punitive.
Yeah.
I don't like taking away recess, or you have to work at lunch. I mean, the kids need those things, and that's just part of them growing up. That's it.
With your talk of like tight procedures and practicing, do you have experience with PBIS?
A little bit.
A little bit? Okay,
Yes.
perfect. That's been a campus initiative. for us. That's
Okay.
awesome. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Very good. Collaboration is sort of a cornerstone of what we do here at Weatherford. Can you describe a time when you worked closely with another teacher to support a student or a group of students? And then what was the outcome of that collaboration?
Collaboration, just thinking of my teammates. So and do you mean in an academic way or behavior?
It could be in
Either.
either, yeah.
I've done both.
We support the whole child, really.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, we do. So I'll give you an academic example. We do a flexible grouping. So, when we're doing our reading small groups, we look at the data of all of our kiddos. And there may be kids around like, okay, you know what? You have kids that are working on this skill and need this particular support. How about these 3 kids? You work with them during that time, and I have your 4 kids. And so, we'll do that a lot. Our team planning is nothing but collaboration, and not a fake collaboration where we're kind of just like, here's my lesson plans, what do you think? But we are actually constantly challenging each other of like, does this activity match that TEAG? If it doesn't, then how could we adjust what you've done to help it match, right? And we've established as a team such a close rapport, and not that we all always agree, because I don't think you have to,
Right.
but we have that respect for one another, that we're constantly giving each other feedback. And sometimes there may be someone designed a lesson and we all do it and we come back to the drawing board to say, some things didn't work. As I did my formative assessment, 60% of my class did not get it. Hey, y'all, let's think of something else. Or you did really great, my kids did not. What were some strategies that you used? Maybe I need some help with that.
Perfect. When you talk about that team collaboration, not to piggyback again, but PLCs have been another big initiative for our campus. Do you have experience with that process?
I do. I have a lot of experience.
Perfect.
And I've also been to about 5 solution tree trainings on PLC.
Oh, great. Okay. Solution tree is awesome. Thank you. Can you tell us about a time you had a disagreement with a coworker, and how did you handle it, and what was the outcome?
Okay, I'm trying to think of a very specific disagreement. I can tell you how I handle it. I'm trying to think of a specific one. The handling part is I'm pretty direct. And not in a rude way. I try to already build, just like what I do with students, build relationships with teachers, so that when I do have to have those tough conversations, it already comes from a place of respect rather than they think I'm being rude. And so I am able just to go directly to that person and say, hey, listen, you know, when you rolled your eyes about my idea, that I didn't think that was respectful. And I know you're not normally like that. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt, but I just don't feel like that's the way we treat one another. And I've had in situations like that where the person comes back to me to say like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And other people almost roll their eyes again, right? And so number one, I have to think, well, maybe my relationship with them isn't as close as I thought. And so I need to back up and figure out ways that I can build that relationship a little bit better. And then come back to them to say like, hey, listen, you know, I just want to make sure like we're treating each other in a respectful way, because it is hurtful. And that works. But sometimes it may not work the first time, but as you build that better and better relationship, then it usually does work.
Great, thank you.
Speaking of positive communication, how do you communicate with parents and guardians about student progress and areas that need improvement?
Okay, so in my district, we use Seesaw. We do have a team newsletter, so that's kind of generic things going on in whatever grade level I'm teaching at the time. I use Seesaw a lot. Quick things, the whole group would just be pictures, photos of things that we're doing in the classroom. Little messages like, Johnny today rocked it on his test. Hey, we've been working on central idea. Last test we did, Johnny, got 60%. Guess what? He got 80% now. And especially those kids where historically, either from behavior or academics, they struggled. I'm trying to give those parents a lot more feedback on their kids. Every kid gets feedback, but especially those families that they're used to the school calling them when something's going wrong.
Right.
I'm able to build those relationships with the parents by always spinning it where, okay, this might not have gone right, this particular thing, but here's what he or she is doing well. And I find that parents really appreciate that.
Mhm.
And I send reminders of things going on in the school. I think they appreciate things like that. Inviting them to PTA events. Love to see you. I'm going to be there, and make sure I do show up and greet my parents there. And when parents do talk to me about things going on with their student, I actually relate it to myself. I'm like, I get it. Homework is so hard for my daughters. Hey, let's you and I work together. What suggestions do you have? What do you have? So, yeah.
Well, just a follow up to that, when you talk about communication with parents, since we're at a campus where we have a high Turkish and Polish population, how do you reach those parents that might not speak English fluently?
The good thing about Seesaw, they can translate.
Oh,
The other thing is I use part of the Google Translate app that I can translate any PDF pretty fast. So like our newsletter, I make sure it's translated into whatever language. In this case, it would be, Polish and Turkish. I also try to learn, the word hello, goodbye, just little things like that.
Yeah.
Even when I'm working with ESL students within my classroom, oh, you know what? Johnny taught me how to say hello in Turkish, and just so they can see, like, I'm trying to learn about your culture. And then when there are particular cultural events like Halloween, things like that, that they might not know about, then I'll let them know, or ask, such my special ed department that they have a lot of social stories. I'm like, hey, can I get a copy of that and pass it on to parents so that they're well aware of things like that
I love
happening.
that. That's a great
yeah, that's
idea.
a great idea.
Thanks.
You've talked a lot about technology throughout this, but can you tell us about how you use technology in the classroom to enhance your literacy instruction? And do you have a favorite tool or resource?
This is really boring. I use Google Slides a lot.
Okay. Not boring.
I don't, Google Slides to me is not because I'm going to have a lot of writing on the slide and teach off of a slide. I want a visual.
Right.
I want two visuals that I want them to compare. I want to have where each group gets a slide that they have to contribute to something in the lesson. And so that's kind of how I've been using it. In the past, I've used, we used to have Nearpod. I would do lessons on there. Now in my district, we have Pear Deck. And I know technically I can use Pear Deck with the slides. I guess maybe I'm not quite there yet, but I tend to use Google Slides a lot.
Okay.
I'm trying to think about specifics that I've used. I like a lot of interactive things that they can. I may have started something. I'll give you an example of like a vocabulary activity that I've done. And it got them to speak a lot. So this wasn't reading, it was science, but I think I could work with reading. It was half of a visual, and they had to describe to their partner what the other half would be. So and so they were able to use a little sketch tool, the drawing tool, and sketch the other half, and then discuss using the academic vocabulary that I wanted them to use. So that's kind of an example of how I Google Slides.
Awesome.
And I have just a quick follow-up regarding technology. We've recently implemented lots of Apple products across our district. How familiar are you with using Apple devices such as the Apple TV, iPad, being able to stream things and so forth?
I use the iPad a lot. And I like the iPad because I can do whole group things, but I can take it off its little dock, and if students are working, I can then bring my iPad with me. Whether it's to show, I have a lot of students served in special education and ESL. So I like it to be able to show that quick visual. sometimes it's even just to show a video of something, like a pre-teach of something
Right.
to a group of students where I know, okay, I know you guys know about baseball, but we're about to get into the story where you have to understand the basics of baseball.
Yeah,
Hey, guys, let's talk about this, and I have it on my iPad, so
Right.
I like it because it's mobile, but then I can also use the Apple TV with it and do whole group things, so I'm really comfortable with Apple.
awesome.
That's great.
And then we also have Pear Deck here.
Okay.
And we also have Seesaw as well, but it's still a fairly new push. So our teachers are still getting more comfortable with using it not only for parent communication, but using it in the classroom for the student work as well.
So I guess now that you said Seesaw, I use Google Slides, but I use Seesaw as well.
Okay.
I've created lessons for Star and Telpas where I'm able to use them as formative assessments. So I've taken pieces of either of those assessments and created my own slides and everything in there. I've also done where I add visuals, give an example of what I may want a student to speak about, give word banks on there, and then the students are able to go into their own activity and speak about whatever activity, or whatever visual, and I can go and listen and give feedback. Like I said, it ties back into the feedback part. I
Yeah.
forgot all about Seesaw.
It's all
So
related.
it is, yeah. So I do that with Seesaw.
Okay, perfect.
Very good. And I had one more quick, sorry to take
No,
over the
please.
conversation. But I had a quick question. I know that you're talking about using a lot of these visuals, particularly for English language learners. But for our kiddos at our campus that oftentimes don't have experience with things, do you see that there might be a benefit to some of these techniques and strategies that are helpful for our English language learners that maybe with students who are monolingual?
Because, I mean, academic language, all kids are learning academic language, so all of these strategies will help students.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, here's our next question. Let's talk about motivation. I know that can be a struggle when we're competing against game consoles and technology devices and so forth. How do you keep students motivated and excited about learning, especially when the learning is difficult?
I think goal setting is first, because it's not what I want, this is what you said you wanted.
Yeah.
Recently, we were kind of figuring out like what area kids would want to have a goal in, very broadly at first, of like, do you want reading or do you want writing? A lot of kids said writing, because writing is difficult. And so we've kind of made that, it's almost been a class goal because most of the kids chose writing.
Yeah.
But I can keep coming back to that. So when I'm asking a student to go back and revise and they're like, oh my gosh, hey, remember, you want to level up on that goal. You know, you got 6 out of 10 in this rubric on your last writing, didn't you get 7 out of 10? You know, and so, and then having a rubric helps because you can pinpoint exactly where they can improve. So it doesn't feel to them as if, oh my God, I have to do all the things.
Right.
It's, oh, I'm just this one little box of the rubric. That's what I'm working on. And that kind of goes back to differentiation because some of those students may be working on one small part for a really long time.
Right.
Where other kids may be working on specific things, several things within that rubric. So I feel like that helps. The other thing is that I try to show kids that I'm still learning. One, I definitely have, you know, ESL students in my classroom, and so I'm trying to learn some of their language. The other thing with when I'm writing about specific topics, I'll ask kids if it's video gaming, or maybe we've read an article about video gaming. I really don't. I hate video games. But I know that they love them. And so that pulls them in, right? And so between their own goals and me having my goals of like, oh my gosh, well, I really want to learn more about whatever. And I usually pick something that I know they know a lot about so that they're motivated to be teaching me. And so it becomes that relationship that way. Yeah. And we do a lot of celebration. So I think that helps with motivation as well.
Can you give me some examples of some celebrations that you've done with your students?
So I like to do authors cheer. I want kids to feel like they are authors, whether they can write whether they can write one word or 5 paragraphs, you're an author. If you can write, you're an author. And so, and for kids who know less language, even if it's just drawing a picture,
Mhm.
boom, you're communicating, right? And so the author share is very simple. And I'll only do a couple authors a day. The kids sit on the floor. I have a special chair. It really is a stupid, boring chair, but I usually put something crazy on it so it looks
Right.
fun.
Mhm.
And we do a little chant. We have an author. They chant with me. And then I'll pick a kid. They cheer. The kid comes and sits there. I usually don't have them read their whole thing. Sometimes that takes a little bit long. Tell us about your first paragraph.
Mm.
Tell us about, you didn't finish, that's okay. Tell us about how you're gonna end it. Tell us your best sentence and why you think it's your best sentence. And the kids listen, and then we make up a chant. It could be, let's do a tornado clap. Let's do a shark clap. The kids love whatever silly little clap. They sit down, they're proud of themselves, and then I bring another kid up.
Yeah.
And we'll do several a day like that. And they're like, can we do all this? Hey, you know what? Gotta finish that, assignment before we can do that. And they even, that goes back to motivation and motivating them. Writing being like one of the hardest things that kids learn and do, and it's hard for adults too. So that really motivates them.
Yeah, that's awesome. The more we can celebrate it, that builds your class community as well. So
Mhm.
that's awesome. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us?
I think it's my passion for teaching. I know that sounds very cliche. Teaching has gotten harder and harder in the past couple of years. And I think the reason I love what I do is because every year I can make myself better.
Mhm.
Not only based on the data I've gotten in the previous year, it could be based on relationships I've had with kids or relationship with those kids that just kind of weren't where I wanted them to be and learning from that. Or working with my colleagues better. And so like it's my drive constantly to be better at what I do.
Mhm.
Um, I try to do on a personal level for sure, but just professionally, I'm reading, I'm on blogs. Like I said, I've been to those solution tree trainings and implementing those things. Um, Asking my principal if I can do trainings with my staff about things that I'm learning about.
Mhm.
Asking for feedback from my colleagues, from my admins. I just want to be better at what I do. So I think I would be a really good fit for this. And
That's awesome.
thanks.
Thank you so much.
Fantastic.
Well, Crystal, we've asked all of our questions of you. What questions do you have for us?
So what is a culture like at your school?
Yeah, so culture is something we've worked really hard to develop. We're an all-in, so we have a really large instructional coaching team,
Okay.
and they're there to help you with whatever you need. You talked a lot about professional growth and leadership qualities and things like that. That's something that we're really working to build up, and we are always looking to kind of train the trainer kind of thing. And anytime that a teacher is looking for a leadership opportunity, we have something for them to do. We are in a little bit of a rebuilding phase, which was awesome because that means whoever we bring in new is going to get the chance to be part of developing that culture. And so we're really looking to bring in people with that positive growth mindset who are going to help us develop that kind of culture on our campus for both our staff and for our students.
Okay.
Yeah.
What does success look like for this job? Like, what if as a fourth grade teacher that you would say Crystal's very successful in her job, what would that look like?
Yeah, I think success would be multi-pronged. So I
Mhm.
think that I look at number one, that socio-emotional side of building relationships and having those connections where our students feel safe and loved every day.
Mhm.
I think if they don't feel safe and loved, I think it makes it impossible for them to learn and meet their personal potential. So I think that's sort of the cornerstone. And then moving from there, our district is very much a data-facing district. We use data in everything that we do. It drives our instruction, all of our planning for campus improvement. And so we want to keep that data front and center. And I think through some of our collaborative work through the PLC system that we have here, we always use opportunities to take a look at the data and continuously look at that growth piece. And so that allows us to personally reflect on our impact on the instruction, what our students' needs, changes we need to make. And I love one of the things that I heard multiple times from you was on self-improvement and personal growth.
Mhm.
And so I love that you have that open mind to look at ways that you can grow personally in areas to help support your kiddos.
Mhm.
So I think all in all, I think we have a very positive culture here, where it takes a village. I know that sounds kind of cliche, but I think it's great that we can count on all of our coworkers. They have sort of an expertise in certain areas, and I feel comfortable going to any one of my team members and saying, hey, let me bounce some ideas off you. Or I might say, hey, poke some holes in this for me. I'm about to roll this out. Where are the challenges that you think I might have?
Mhm.
And I think that openness is very unique and special and something that we are fortunate to have here.
And I think just to kind of piggyback off that, I think that success, like Heather said, is multi-pronged. And so ultimately, we want all of our decisions, we want our culture to be student driven. And so if our students are growing, then we're succeeding. But on the other side of that, we also want to take care of our staff. And so one of the things that I look for as success is, does the teacher feel comfortable trying new things? Does the teacher feel accepting of feedback? Do they feel like they are coachable?
Mhm.
Those kinds of things, because I think when we have that open mindset, even a master teacher needs a coach, right? Because
Yeah.
a coach is really just a thought partner. And so when we can have that collaboration and when the school feels collaborative on multiple levels, that's what I look at as success.
Okay.
And I'd say as one of your employees also, I feel valued when someone does ask me for my feedback
Yes.
as well. So I think
Mhm.
that reciprocal feedback is important in being open to it. And I can say personally, that's an area where I've grown. I think sometimes we can be resistant to hearing feedback
Yeah.
because that means that we need to improve in somewhere. But I
Right.
think when you're working among other professionals who help foster that sense of we can all improve, we're all lifelong learners, I think it's helped me grow personally. So I can speak to that.
What does professional learning look like, whether it's in the district or at your campus?
So our district drives a lot of our professional learning. They do a really great job of bringing in strategies, like instructional strategies, not just content, but instructional strategies that we're going to be able to implement in our classroom. So they do that based on our instructional model. And right now, for the past year or so, they've really been driving home 3 priority elements, and that's student collaboration, cognitively complex tasks, and asking in-depth questions. So a lot of our district initiatives have been around that. We also have our campus initiatives. Right now, we're really focused on using the STOIC framework for classroom management and how we can drive that. We are a dual language campus with a lot of emergent bilingual students. So we've been doing a lot with our SIOP strategies and just building that in and how to develop language targets and things like that. So those are a little more targeted. And then we also have our instructional coaches who meet one-on-one with all of our classroom teachers and allow them to develop a goal and strategies to meet that goal together. So we kind of hit multiple different levels there. But our goal with whole group learning, whether it's at the district level or it's at the campus level, is that it's applicable to all teachers. So as an ELAR teacher, you're not going to go sit in a math training, right? We want to make sure that whatever we do, they can take home and they can apply the next day in their instruction.
And I think we're fortunate too at the district level. All of our trainers are vibrant and they really promote collaboration during all of our professional learning. So it's not going to be a sit and get. So they're modeling the strategies that we're going to turn around and implement in our classrooms to help promote engagement with our students. So I think that's another benefit.
Yeah.
And then also I would say that there's some choice because we have some built-in days that we're allowed to choose professional learning opportunities that are relevant to our personal needs. I think it gives us some choice. Like we had our Learning Saturday, which is our trade day, where we can go in and choose. There was a menu of, I don't know, maybe 30 different options where you could select something in an area that's targeted to where you want to grow personally.
Yeah.
And I think having that choice and then the district creating opportunities for us to learn from experts, I think it's been really helpful where I don't have to seek it out as much. They're bringing it to us.
Yeah.
How does the administration support classroom teachers when there are behavior concerns, when the teacher truly has worked with the student, worked with the parent, but at some point it's beyond that? How does admin support that?
Right. So we are lucky enough to have a wide, instructional coaching team. And so the first step that we would do is have, the teacher sit down with an instructional coach and brainstorm, okay, this is everything I've tried, what else can I do?
Mhm.
However, there are some instances where you just need to go beyond that. That's where Heather comes in. She's our fabulous MTSS coordinator. And so she'll schedule an SST and bring the parent in on the conversation. And so that way we're letting the parent know that this is becoming more of an issue than can be handled in the classroom.
Mhm.
And B, we can brainstorm with the parent. Well, what do you do at home? How can we reinforce that here at school? How can you reinforce what we're doing at school at home? And we can all work together to create a plan. We'll track that for a couple weeks. And then after that, we'll make some decisions. Do we need to change that plan? Does the student possibly have a bigger need than is being addressed by the plan? So do we need to look at possibly referring for an FIE? You know, it's a last resort, but if that student needs to be removed from the classroom, then we're going to remove that student from the classroom and go through the restorative process with them. So when they come back and they've cooled down, they'll have a chance to go and apologize to their teacher or repair the harm that was caused when they were removed from the classroom.
Oh, that sounds familiar from how it works at my school that I'm working at.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, do you have any other questions for us or anything?
I think that's it.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming in today. This was a fabulous interview. We loved having you.
It's good to meet you.
We are hoping to make a decision by the end of the week. So we'll give you a call by Friday to let you know either way. We want to keep this process pretty quick. So
Okay,
All
good. I look forward to hearing from you.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, I'll walk out.
Wow, I thought she was just a fantastic candidate.
No,
I
that
can't say
was
enough good things.
fabulous. Yes.
What kind of stood out to you?
I really appreciated, A, how detailed she was. You can tell that just the way that she talked, she's very knowledgeable. You can tell that these are things that she's actually using in her classroom on a daily basis. I love that she brought up small groups multiple times, even down to identifying those high priority knowledge and skills.
Right.
Like that's a master teacher level right there. She's using those formative assessments. It sounds like she's really knowledgeable about the PLC process as well. That'd be a great asset to us. What stood out to you?
A couple of things. I thought her communication style, and then she kept talking about relationships frequently. And I think that's really important, especially with that newer team,
Yeah.
to have someone who is more experienced, but someone who also can kind of bring people together. And when there is conflict, work through that in a professional way. I get the sense that she'd be very capable in that area. You know, I also like the way that she talked about, just her passion for teaching.
Yeah.
When she spoke to the different questions, she spoke as someone that was speaking from the point of view of someone who's passionate and committed to kids, and speaking from experience and not just from the pedagogy or best practices that she's read about in a research article.
Right.
She was able to give us very specific examples from her history and her work with students. And I thought that was really powerful to me. And I also think that would be something that would really resonate well with other teachers, because she brings that experience. She's walked the same walk. She's worked with a very diverse group of kiddos,
Yeah.
worked with kids who have had challenges, and she's been able to affect positive change and really make an impact. So
Yeah.
again, going back to her work with the data too, I think she'd be instrumental in helping facilitate those data conversations.
Absolutely.
I think she'd be a great asset to our campus.
Yeah, I do too. I also really enjoyed how she constantly talked about the ways that she's looking to improve her own practice.
Yeah.
So she talked about finding those professional readings, those like blogs, think like anything she can do to just, I think that she'd be a risk taker, and I think that'd be a
Yeah.
great model for those younger teachers that she's going to be working with as well.
I think so too. And I know that we were looking for a team leader for fourth grade. Do you think, based on what you heard today, that she might be a good fit for that role?
Yeah, I think she'd be a great fit for that role. think that if that's something that she's interested in, I'd be very interested in offering her that as well.
Yeah, that would be
I think
fantastic.
she'd be great to, between her relationship building and her knowledge and her ability to analyze data, I think that she'd be able to really lead her team through that process and develop her own kind of leaders within that team as well.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic.
Yeah. My one concern is I think that it kind of sounded like technology is an area of growth for her,
Yeah.
but that's an easy area for us to grow. We can have Mr. Fred get with her to kind of talk more through the iPad. She has a really good foundation there, and maybe being with a young team, they'll encourage her to use that technology in there even more.
Well, that's a good point. And like you said, she did seem very open to learning new things as well. So I think that might be a great area of growth for her.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that sounds
definitely.
fantastic. And I do like that she did have some good foundational skills with some of the technology, which she's used Seesaw before. So she brings some of that as well.
Yeah.
So I think that's helpful.
Perfect. So based on everything we heard today and then her resume as well, we feel like she'd be a good fit with the team, correct?
Oh, I think she'd be a fantastic win. I think the question for me is, would we be able to get her? I
Yeah.
know that several campuses are courting her as a candidate, and
Uh-huh.
so I think that we've really got to kind of sweeten the deal by pairing the offer with some opportunities for leadership. Because I
Yeah.
know that's something that she's looking for, and really doing what we can so that she'll choose us. I think that's going to be our biggest challenge when I look at a candidate as
Yeah.
strong as she is.
I totally agree. Well, I am going to go into the system and I'm going to go ahead and recommend her for hire. And then I'm going to give her a call and offer her the job and ask her if she'd be interested in that team leadership role as well.
Oh, that sounds fantastic.
Yeah,
We'll
awesome.
definitely have to keep our fingers crossed.
Yes, definitely. I'll keep you updated.
Okay, that sounds great.
Alright.
And then if she doesn't take the fourth grade position, what are some of our alternatives? Are we considering other candidates, maybe
So,
internally or?
We do, so she's our third candidate that we've interviewed. We do have some others that we could interview as well. They don't have quite the experience level she has. But there are a few more resumes that we can sift through and call them in and schedule some interviews as well.
Okay, well, let's hope we don't have to go
Yes.
there though. Let's hope that our number
Yes.
one
Fingers
choice.
crossed she
Yeah.
accepts. So,
Well, that sounds fantastic. Very good.
all right. Well, thank you so much, Heather.
Well, you're welcome. I enjoyed our experience today. It was
Me
fantastic.
too.